All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. I am Eric of the Lovely Family, as well as everyone knows. And I want to say hello to everyone on the Rents Radio Network. I want to say hello to everyone on Shoutcast and Oracle Broadcasting and the Next News Network and, well, every other fine corner of the galaxy that, in whatever way or dimensional drift or whatever it is that you think operates out there amongst you that gets you the signal. I'm glad that you're here. For those of you that want to join a bunch of fine people in the chat room, and well, of course, there's always the opportunity. Somebody may be unfine to you, but that's okay. There are moderators in the chat room. Enjoy. There's a toll-free number at the bottom of the screen for you to call in and spend some time with us on air. If anything piques your interest, that you must expel your I don't know, ideas onto the mainstream or out into the world. Now, the big thing that there are many things that are really going on in the world, and there are many topics afoot. People are starting to, it's starting to become really streamlined. If you notice, people are the topics that are going on, they're becoming narrower and narrower and narrower, to where everything seems to be repeating itself. It was many multiple things frequently in many directions, and now you're seeing things seem to be more honed. People are starting to pay more attention. I was speaking to a really good friend of mine, and I'm hoping I'm going to have him on the show at some point. And this is just personal, and you don't have to believe in it or not. But we were comparing back and forth the data of what is going on in the world and how things are cracking. And he started to expose and talk about the emotional, spiritual, energetic side, the I don't know how you want to say it, the tapping into the great consciousness and looking at the things around them. See, I have people that are actually truly friends in many frames of thinking. And he said, you could just feel it. You know it's happening. You can feel the cracks in society. You can sense the energy, and crazy things are just erupting. And everything seems to starting to boil. If you look at people's personal lives, I mean, we're starting to talk about activities and events that were going on around him. Personal things that you never would seem to think were going to happen would happen, both good and bad, all seeming to push forward and culminate to a single event. Now, I stole it from a movie, but I tend to call it the quickening. The human body is an electromagnetic energy generator. It's basically really what a byproduct of the human body is. And your consciousness exists in the realm where that electromagnetic field is generated around your brain. Now, we can all use supposition. We can guess as to what these things are. We can talk about the third eye and its existence. Most people know it as the pituitary gland. You should take a look at it because its actual makeup, the creation of it, it's the tissue that it is formed out of, is all optical tissue. It's an eyeball that's basically been split open in the rear and wrapped around to look in upon itself. Okay? It's really quite an interesting thing that's within your brain. And we can talk about many of these things, but I think it all correlates. You can see as society, in every facet of society, as it starts to break down, it is going to manifest itself everywhere. Those who see markets and numbers, they see it happening there. And they're sounding alarms. You see people in the spiritual side, and they see it happening there. Okay? And all of these different portions will continue to grow in intensity together. And as my friend, Dr. Kramer, was actually talking to me about, he said, he was experiencing that it seems to all be culminating and moving towards a central point, this weird wave of energy and within society and within people's behaviors and activities. And we started to talk about it, and we started talking about a commercial, or not a commercial, but a small video that someone produced. And it's like people realize, whether they want to believe it or not, the reality of the issue is becoming quite clear. That the government knows that the debt is unsustainable. That the government knows everything. and there are more people that may not know that information, but they are aware of the coming shock waves. In other words, the preparation, the plan that has been put into action is actually itself, in and of itself, causing ripples throughout society in every facet that you can think. People know it's coming. What we're going to do is we're going to listen to a couple minutes of a video, and I hope that this will help you maybe to understand one of the facets, to understand some of the people who are involved, as far as us, not the they, not the them, not the Council of 300, the Olympians, not those individuals. We're talking about us. And we're going to spur some conversations, hopefully. Veterans, people who are listening, people out there, listen to this short commercial, if you'll fire that up, and then we'll talk a little bit about it at the end and after the break.
The U.S. government sees this coming, and they are preparing. The way that they're preparing, though, should make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. You might remember not too long ago I did a report on the billions of rounds of hollow point bullets and buckshot that the Department of Homeland Security has on order. Perhaps you thought this was a crazy conspiracy theory. Well, if Forbes is willing to acknowledge it, is that mainstream enough for you? Last week, I put out a detailed report covering a leaked government document entitled Internment and Resettlement Operations, or FM 3-39.40, which clearly outlines the plans for military internment camps for U.S. citizens. It specifically mentions the use of psychological operations officers within the camps to isolate activists and to pacify the population. The link to the video and the document itself is in the description. And then there's this.
Well, we have our big vehicle out here. It's an armored vehicle. It's an MRAP vehicle. It's mine resistant, ambush protected. That's what it stands for. That's what we use to deliver our team to high-risk warrant services. This is the only entry in the vehicle here, so all the operators, we've modified our particular vehicle to have the skids on the sides so that we can have operators on the side and just get off the vehicle from the sides. Makes for a very fast deployment. That's what we're trying to do. If there's an issue while we're out serving a warrant service or something like that, we can shelter in place with this and then go into surround and call-out operations inside of here. We can generally get about 10 or 11 operators in here. Very tight, but we can do it. So we get them in there. We have the same on this side. We have a skid on this side as well. We can put four or five operators on here with the shield, and they deploy off this side. The team commander, which is myself, I'll stand in the MRAP and provide overwatch for the team while they're making entry into the house. This glass right here is multiple layers of glass. It's about, I would say, about that thick. It's got multiple layers in there, and it will stop up to a 50 caliber round. The window will. So it provides very good protection for us. We have gun ports in here, so we can actually shoot from within the vehicle. You may think it's pretty loud, but actually it's not too bad. But we do have gun ports there and in the back, and two on the side as well. Our team is stationed in El Paso. That's where we're from. We have a team right now, about 17 certified members, and a couple green team guys that are trying to get on the team. And we cover the entire New Mexico state and West Texas, all the way out from El Paso to Midland. And that's our area of operations. Now, we are a national team, so we can be called to go anywhere in the United States and assist other teams with whatever they have pending.
It should be obvious that this isn't law enforcement. These are preparations for war. Combine all of this with the NDAA of 2012 and 2013, which give the military the right to kill or detain anyone anywhere in the world without a trial, and you've got the makings of a full-out military dictatorship. Powers that be have no intention of becoming the powers that were. Their system might be falling apart, but they aren't about to just let the people choose what comes next.
All right, Gary. This is kind of the topic. This is kind of the thing that, as we're talking about it, the days go on, that people really, I hope, are understanding. Now, I'm not in the chat room, but if Gary is, he can drop a link to the video, because not that I personally agree with the individual's opinion, but we'll be right back after these messages. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. The reason why I talk about the telephone number is, for those people who out there are a lot of people who float through and they hear these broadcasts, okay? And they hear one individual on the air talking about what's going on. And sometimes it's nice for them to hear from listeners and things who are also researching and absorbing the information. But this particular commercial, if you go and find the video out there for those who aren't in the chat room, And I don't know if Gary put it into the chat room, the link for it or not. But like I said, it's not necessarily that I completely agree with the individual who made the video, but it's the key information that's in there. And when you look at the video, it says Department of Homeland Security and Customs Authority. As I said, the presidential office seized control of all custom agents and stripped the power of oversight from the Congress over the custom agency, and then they've given it to the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, and when you look at this vehicle, you want to talk gun control. People out there want to talk about there's no need for guns. Your government will never harm you, really. So you have this rolling vehicle that they've tried to build to be mine-proof, basically bomb or explosion-proof for the layman. Some type of bomb underneath or explosion. It's built to withstand the blast. Okay. The windows. Now remember, these are supposed to be police officers, because remember what the government says and what your officials tell you. You don't need these kinds of guns because this isn't a war zone. So their vehicle's already mine-proof and bomb-proof. The windshield is tempered glass. It's highly heat-compressed glass with plastic inserts, sometimes silicone, depending on how it's made, that supposedly will stop a 50 caliber round. And then, you see, they call them gun ports. But, these things have been around for a while. They're called murder holes, okay? That's what they're called. They were originally made in towers, okay? And they would basically cut these thin tower windows, like in a jail cell. You'll see them. And they're specifically cut into the open air so that you can look in several different directions and shoot your bow and arrow to kill whoever's outside. But they can't actually shoot back in. It's the design of the window. Well, a murder hole. This is just an advanced version. So you have this big, heavily armored vehicle that they can move into your local area. And basically, if you have a riot crowd or something of that nature, they bring in this armored hulking thing, set it in the middle of the crowd, and they can shoot out of all sides. Now, how is this needed to serve a warrant? Even for those who don't agree and who don't understand or who don't care. the individuals who claim that, this is no big deal, explain to me what this is for and explain to me how we don't live in a war zone. Someone please explain it to me. Because the government sure thinks that we live in a war zone. I mean, or am I confused? All of the bullets, the new guns, the drone argument, the continued push to drop bombs on the local citizens. So if ladies and gentlemen out there who are listening to this broadcast, if you somehow come to the conclusion that you agree with them and you give them your guns, I mean, and you have no clue upon how to defend yourself, you are going to spend a period of time until they decide you are no longer useful, basically licking the boots of the man. I don't know. You should dive out a window, find you a nice, sturdy belt, maybe some good rope. I don't know what. I really have no clue what to tell you. And this pace is going to continue to converge. We are dawning into a new era. And a lot of people talk about the great understanding or the great shift in consciousness. I don't think that it happens that way. And I'm trying to think of the easiest terminology I can to explain what I'm feeling to you. You see, evolution is not separated from creation. People have they've really convinced themselves. Evolution is brought upon by necessity. It is brought upon by factors in the environment that create a radical necessity for a radical change. As we talked about the Cro-Mag state of mind before, you see, nothing changes incrementally over time. It is an incremental buildup of pressure over time. Think of it as a fault line. And as those two pieces rub together and the pressure expands and expands until what? That the pressure can no longer be contained by the heat and inward pressure of the plates of the earth, and the energy expands in a radical dynamic change, which causes the shaking of the foundation of the actual earth itself. Think of this same event taking place in society. All of these plates or mindsets are rubbing together. And as we are moving forward, it is sending out energy and shock waves, small ones, into every facet of understanding that human beings have come from, whether you respect another version or not. We'll talk a little bit more about this when we come back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the broadcast. This is the one and only Wide Awake News. And yes, Charlie McGrath is away for a little while. He will be back with us in a few short days, I am sure. I want to say hello to everyone out there who's listening in all the different venues that you're listening in. You know, Next News Network, Rents Radio Network, the Oracle Broadcasting. Almost forgot. But, you know, basically what we're talking about here is understanding that no matter who you are, no matter which facet of you who are listening, be it the intellectual, the one who focuses on data and digits and numbers, okay, we hear you. We know that there are shock waves and you guys are feeling tremors and you guys are out there and you want to know about these things and you want reporting on these things. And the spiritual is the same. And also, you know, for all other facets that are out there who are viewing this thing, you know, people who are home parents or educators or whatever facet you're in, okay, the shock waves are present everywhere. And everybody wants their topic or their issue tended to. And I completely understand that from all of your messages and emails and the people who research and they look at exactly who is what, and they have the data on, you know, it's the red man in the bushes at 3 o'clock and so forth. All of these individual people are clamoring to be heard. We must understand that this is a sea that is actually made up of one thing, that these creatures, this thing that you're dealing with, this system, and the people who bathe themselves in this kind of personal glorification and bathe themselves in this kind of desire for personal power and control. Okay, the people who have simply grown so big, so huge, so large that money isn't even, they don't care about it. You know, it's not an aphrodisiac. They trade people, they trade countries, they trade thousands of lives in a breath. Now, these individuals, you know, one way or another, by hook or by crook, these people need to be brought to justice is what needs to happen. You know, either if it's in the field or in the courts. And everybody has a different idea and a different solution. Well, we're all going to need to interact with those solutions. You know, we're going to need communities, specialists, people who know things. You know, there are going to be, and I hope that people understand that as this takes place, there's going to be a new need for certain things within your communities. New journalists, okay? People who are now doing the legwork that actually research, okay? Not the guys who sit around or the ladies who sit around and say, okay, provide me to a link, take me from A to B to C to D, explain the whole thing to me 4,800 times, handhold me. I mean, the individuals who actually go out and bird dog, the guys who pick out the information, the guys who snoop and gather, who do the extra legwork, even if they get a tip from someone else, they go the extra mile and they say, okay, how else can I look at this? Can I unify these guys with money players, with politicians? What can I do to cross reference this information? And they don't wait for someone to give that information to them. They go and they seek it out and they find it. And they compare and they look at data. Okay? These individuals are going to be needed. Some people talk about the electricity and the internet going away. Well, if that happens, well, then, your town members are going to need to be informed. If you've already proven yourself to be a staunch, hard-nosed newsman, then never fear, there will be a job for you. People are going to want to be informed. They're going to want information. People who are tending to crops or livestock or doing security patrols or taking a wagon of trading goods over the next town, they all want information. They're going to want to know what's going on in their local area. So, people are really, they think about life without the amenities. They think about life without all of the things. Well, if one of these, as a friend of mine in the back wings here, so call them their love wagons, rolls into town, you're going to have to be able to deal with that, or you're going to succumb to whatever they want. And if you look at the plans that were talked about in the video, they're talking about work relocation. That a job will be chosen for you no matter what you like to do, no matter what you want to do. Same thing the Soviet Union did. They will move you to an appropriate work facility, keep you in a camp, and employ you in the job or activity that the government so designates as suitable. Now, people, what do they do with people who are unsuitable? We want to ask that question. We want to talk about it. I'm pretty sure we all know what they do with the unsuitable. Paid agents and actors now around you who are going to be deployed into these camps to do what? To seek out the independent, the alpha male, the alpha female, the ones that will stop and cause dissidents within the camps. They're going to be there to diffuse and eliminate the operations. I mean, you would think Hollywood wrote this stuff. And it's just, it is really surprising to me that people who are in all of these different facets aren't coming together and creating these communities. People talk about, I can't leave the system. Well, I mean, the system is just going to suck you in, and then it's going to take you apart. You need an exit strategy. That's the reality. The system is going to fall apart. It's going to attempt to morph into a 100% iron-fisted totalitarian regime. That's what you see coming. Hunger Games, okay? You're either going to prepare for that, you're either going to take part and be one of them, or you're going to attempt to be free. And I think it's a worldwide event. People, bodies, and resources. Why do you think they continue to talk about population reduction? When you look at the math and you look at the numbers, a lot of people say a lot of things. However, the MIT guys seem to think that that the entire Earth can house and feed 36 billion people. That's a 3 and a 6 billion. Okay, and you're looking at roughly between 6 and 7 billion here now. Some people say 8, but Who are the MIT guys? Well, there are these giant egghead bean counting number freaks that spend all day doing nothing but having mental fantasies about digits. So, I don't really know what to tell people about burying their head in the sand. As I guess it's the old Christmas Carol idea. or maybe from the Bible. I don't know. Let let the change of your sins rest lightly on your soul. And I have to tell the people who are thinking about the people around them, look, you are making harsh, rash decisions about who you work with, who you deal with, who gets to know your secrets, your methods, the things that you're doing, whatever it is that within your little bonded groups. These individuals. We'll be right back after these messages. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the last segment of the broadcast. You know, the conversation is tending to revolve continually around the narrowing as we come. Everyone can feel like we're not sure what it is that's going to set it off. We have no personal, we each may have our own ideas with what might happen first. That's what I'm saying. Where we come from, whichever version we're feeling, whichever portions, whichever vibe, or we'll say nerve that we have our finger on. From industrial to economic to production capacity to the guys who look at the weather, okay, or the guys who look at extraterrestrial activity and they look at the scope and stars and planetary movements. There's so many facets to the awakening, to the movement. People really they don't really know. Most of the time they get into the thing that excites them the most, the thing that they can understand the most, and the thing that they can articulate the best. It generally becomes their portion of the field that they deal with. I like to become as well versed in many different avenues as possible. And when we all feel these things, we all feel the pulsing. So who knows which one of us is right as to what will set it off? Who knows which one of us is, completely correct as to who the bad guys are? But it's coming anyways.
Eric, I've got a pretty good idea what might set it off.
What might that be, Gary?
Well, I'll tell you. If those beer trucks stop running for 3 days, or if the cable TV goes down on Monday night football night, I think you will probably see people out in the streets 1960s style. What do you think?
Gary, I think you're 100% right. But here's what else is funny. Just the simple statement that you made. Now, you didn't talk about hurting anybody. You didn't incite any kind of bad thing or idea. You merely used your brain and come up with a plausible, 100% workable conclusion, which I believe in. But simply by putting that little thing out there, I mean, we now live in a society where you are a terrorist collaborator. You have exposed weaknesses and ideas. And if someone, let's say some idiot out there was listening to you, and he goes out and he finds a way to stop all the beer trucks, well, you can now be whisked away, life in prison because you came up with the idea and gave it to somebody over the air. This is their argument to now take over the media, to stop all of our voices, because all of this theorizing, Gary, all these theories that we come up with, is inciting instability and violence. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you. Do you have any money in a bank after Cyprus? So, those who look at how things are playing out and kind of extend from that, what might just happen in the near term. I mean, are they terrorists? Are they people to be watched and be concerned about? Or are they frugal people who just don't want to be caught up in a bad situation? Now, in the government's eyes, if you got scared by what went on in Cyprus and grab all your money out of the bank because you're not going to contribute 40% to some fat cat bankers that got more than you anyway, you're an evil dude. But, I got to scratch my head and say, I'm just reacting to a sign of the times and taking care of me and mine. So, I don't know. I would hate for somebody to think that I was a evil terrorist just because I was trying to protect what little I got.
Well, and if you look at the situation, every law, all the different things that they're attempting to put into place, is to keep anyone from being outside of the system. That's what it's really about. That when the system implodes, they want everyone on the inside. Everybody's going out together. Is really the way I see it put together, because they need complete and utter destruction of what is there and them be the only one in the driver's seat to give you the new solution, the new version of society.
And then they just print up a whole bunch of money and buy what's left at yard sale prices. Hey, I'd like to be there with a pocket full of dough and maybe get some bargains too.
Well, they don't want to have that. No, they can't.
That's true. I am not a member of the club.
They can't have either one of us showing up with, a big stack of silver or gold and start, bidding against these things and buying things up. The opportunity is not there for you to gain more power and control. It's about them. That's the reality that we're facing, and they are preparing to maintain their control at any cost. And see, this is the thing. This is the reason why they call you terrorists, for espousing ideas, for making plans, for making preparations. It's because, according to the think tank question, as we talked about before, how these things are war gamed and thought about, the question was, well, how do we maintain authority and power and control? Well, anything that is against the power structure or control would be deemed a terrorist. Okay, that's how it goes. That is the calculation. If you are against something, then you are a terrorist against that idea, and that's the way it's mind game. So you who believe in sound money, you who believe in principles, morals, God, a community, heck, even if you just believe in your crap belongs to you and nobody else, okay, right down to the simplest of simple, in looking out for yourself and trying to cover your butt and all the things that you generated in life and all the things that you might want to generate. Well, guess what? All of those things have detrimental impact on their control and their issuance of a new system. So they must eliminate you. Therefore, you are a terrorist, okay? According to the question, the way it's presented to the think tank, that's who you are. Now, the job of the media and the job of Hollywood and the job of politicians is to make you swallow that turd sandwich, okay? That's the reality. And as we see things growing in pace around us, the only thing I can do is beg people to be prepared, to be ready, to have their ducks in a row as best as they possibly can. And because this thing does not happen slowly over a period, it's going to reach a crescendo, and then there will be an avalanche explosion of energy that will ripple through society, just like an earthquake ripples through the land. And you see how an earthquake, okay, at a specific magnitude can destroy structures, infrastructure, buildings, lives, everything, okay? Well, imagine that same type of violent event at what I think near maximum magnitude. I mean, this is a 9, 9.5 that's coming. I don't know if it's a 10, but it's a 9 to 9.5. And those shockwaves will ripple through society. It's going to destroy institutions, families, countrysides, cities. It's going to devastate populations in pockets all over the place. It's going to affect every nation, every nationality, every belief, from the technical digit counter all the way down to the spiritual guru who lives on a rock somewhere. This is the reality of the event that's getting ready to take place. And I know I can say for sure, for certainty, that it's coming. Because there's too many ways you can feel the energy from it. You can literally feel it in the air. If you go into a city with lots of people, you can feel it. And it's different. Things are changing. You can feel that the energy is different. It's almost to the point of excitability. not as far as joy or anything of that nature, but how you excite particles. And when you start using energy to excite particles and create radical chain reactions, well, that's what's about to happen. See, evolution takes place through radicalism. Okay, it is a radical change to meet a demand within the ecosystem to maintain life, existence, so forth. This is the reason why you've never grown wings, because you never needed to. There wasn't a demand for such a thing to happen. And you can talk about the influx of particles from the cosmos, radioactivity, and how that mutates genomes and so forth. And yes, I understand all of that. And we can have that conversation. But we're basing this on really looking at society and looking at the energy that's pulsating through society. And I tell you, there are strange things afoot. People are robbing people now. I mean, the bank doesn't even hide. You were listening to Gary. They're robbing the people in broad daylight, slapping them all about the head and neck with their private junk, and saying, what are you going to do about it? I mean, really. So they've now set a new precedence. When do you think they're just going to broad daylight rob someone bigger? And you have the whole entire world standing around, like all of Europe. Oh, no, we're not like Cyprus. Oh, no, no. France, England, Germany, all of them. They're all like, oh, no, Italy, no, Spain, no, we're not them. We're nothing like them. No. They had problems. They went too far into debt. They didn't know how to manage. Their people weren't smart enough to manage the situation. We aren't like them at all. Well, it's insanity. They're all like them. They dance to the Federal Reserve fiddle. The Federal Reserve calls the shots. It manipulates corporations, countries, populations. Why do you think that on the U.S. dollar, the Federal Reserve, the currency of the world, it says, "In God we trust"? There are no symbols of God. There are symbols on there from other religions or other ideologies, but not religions. People don't understand. The dollar is supposed to be God. People one day will get it, what these suggestions mean. In God we trust. Who's God? Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here.